Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us on today's episode of Howdy Partner. We have our amazing partner from Netgate who are going to be taking us through how to manage multi-instance controller on AWS. So with me today, I have my colleague Bennett, who is going to be co-hosting with me today, and partners from Netgate. So before I get started, I would like everybody to just go ahead and introduce uh, each and every one of us one after the other. Uh, Bennett, you want to go first?
Yeah, thanks, Olawanji. And hey, everybody. Bennett Borofka. I'm a partner solutions architect with AWS, and I support software partners through their journey to grow and build with AWS services. I've been working with Netgate here for a better part of the year. I'm excited to talk through some of their products today and see where they're going.
Hi, I'm Glen Shok. I'm the VP of Marketing over at Netgate.
Hi, I'm TJ Sholin. I'm the AWS Alliance Manager here.
Hi, I'm Timothy Quinn. I'm the Solutions Architect with Marketing with Netgate.
All right. Thank you all very much. And once again, my name is Shwaga, and I'm a partner solutions architect here at AWS, and I'm going to be hosting this episode. For those of you that are just joining us, Howdy Partner is a show, a weekly Twitch series that highlight AWS partners that have built innovative solutions and are validated by AWS Solutions Architect. So without any more waste of time, I would like to pass the torch to the team at Netgate to take us through what we're going to be learning today and moving from there.
Great. Do you have the screen up?
Okay, 1 second. There you go.
Perfect. I see it. Great. So here's everyone for those people taking screenshots. But I think we'll have this is being recorded and will be available later, right?
Yes.
So quick agenda. Bennett's going to do an introduction for us. Then what I'm going to do is talk about Netgate for the folks that don't know who we are, what we do. We'll talk about the products, Tensor, as well as pfSense Plus. Then we'll get into multi-instance management, a demo of multi-instance management. I know a lot of our partners, a lot of our customers are excited to see it working in live. Those will not be screenshots. That will be Tim leading us through a demo of what we're releasing, and I'll talk through a lot of that. And then we're going to end with a direction of where Netgate is going and where we feel the market is going towards zero trust and mesh VPN. So we have a good set of time in front of us. Hopefully it's a lot of meaty content, and let's get rolling. Bennett, it's all yours.
All right, thanks, Glenn. Yeah, thanks. I wanted to take a minute here and just talk about the partnership Netgate has had with AWS. Obviously, as a software vendor, we work with multiple partners here to help grow and build the relationship, and also involve different partners in different programs we have to bring more innovation for our joint customers. So some of the highlights here. First of all, if anyone is familiar with our marketplace, we have a plethora of services and software available on there. And Netgate does have their pfSense Plus and their Tensor routers available as AMIs that you can install to Amazon EC2 inside your account. So you get full control of security and the deployment of that inside your architecture. And also your tax support is also available as professional services on our marketplace. So really excited on the attraction that marketplace has had for Netgate and where that relationship's going. Obviously, some of the more innovations you have coming, we'll be looking forward to seeing them on marketplace. And I want to highlight too, you guys are also on the GovCloud marketplace. So some of our US government customers can also transact and procure your software right from AWS Marketplace. Another pillar of this relationship, and really foundational to a lot of our software partners, is what we call our foundational technical review. And so this is a rigorous qualification that AWS goes through for security, reliability, and operational excellence with our software vendors. I believe, Olabanji, you might have done the recent FTR review with Netgate. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. I was the one that validated the FTR for Netgate. You're correct.
Awesome. Yeah. So as a partner solutions architect with AWS, we do these types of reviews for our partners all the time. And then two other programs, we have a lot of different service ready programs available at AWS. We're excited to see Netgate participating in these, and one of them being Graviton Ready. So your pfSense Plus and Tensor products are Graviton based. So they do support Amazon EC2's Graviton processors for the best price performance we offer, as well as AWS Marketplace Ready. So I know your products can also work with VPC endpoints. pfSense Plus specifically works with Private Link to allow customers to control the private network connectivity within virtual private clouds in their AWS architecture. So just a quick summary there. I wanted to put that down as we set the context here with the partnership, but I'll hand it back to you, Glenn, to start going into some of your products.
Yep. Something I just learned today from our CTO is that the ARM processor, the Graviton, supports IAMB for VPN and encryption acceleration really, really well. Actually, better so than most. So you can have a very cost-effective processor that also really does improve performance for VPN and encryption. And pfSense does take advantage of that on the firewall and the VPN level. So I'm learning new stuff every day here too. All right. So who are Netgate? We're a company that's been around for about 20 years. You can hear me okay, right? Everything's fine? Okay. So we're a company that's been around for about 20 years. We're headquartered here in Austin. I'm actually in Austin right now. I live in Las Vegas. We're about 100 people, and our focus is on networking, security, and management now. So the management of both of our platforms. And we're a big contributor to the open source community. So we've been upstreaming to the open source community around FreeBSD, all the changes we make that because pfSense is on FreeBSD. Tensor, our vRouter that we're going to talk about, sits on Linux. All the changes that we do there, we also upstream the ones that are relevant. So we have a lot of contribution to the open source community, and our community is very important to us. We're going to make sure that what we do that we know affects them, right? Because we have a lot of usage for our pfSense CE product in the open source community, and we're going to make sure that what we're doing is guiding our customers and our users of the project in the right direction. So the company, we have over 10, now 11 million downloads. Actually, we crossed 11 million recently. Downloads for pfSense Plus and pfSense Plus CE, but we are not just an open source firewall. We are used in the enterprise. We have a hair under 200 global 2,000 customers. We're used globally within government agencies, education, all across the board. So within the AWS ecosystem, we have all of this as a representative there as well. So it's not like we're just an open source firewall. We are an enterprise firewall. The same set of software that the Navy uses, you can also use at home on a much smaller box. And that's basically who we are. So what do we bring to market? We have appliances. You want to do a re-intro? Olabanji, you want?
Yes, sorry about that, Glenn. I realized that we just got bumped onto the main channel. And for those that are just joining, hey everyone, my name is Olabanji Shwaga, PSA here at AWS, and we have here Netgate, who is going to be taking us through their new solution. So yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. Do you want to go back to this, Bennett, or?
Sure. Olabanji, is this a good place to pick up?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Hey, everybody. Bennett Barofka. I'm a partner solutions architect with AWS, and I work with software partners on their journey to grow and build with us as their products expand for our joint customers. Today, I want to just quickly highlight some of the partnership activity that Netgate has been working with myself and Olabanji over the past couple years. So there's a lot of different programs we have at AWS for partners to go through. And the first one here I'll highlight is, of course, our AWS Marketplace. And so Netgate's products, their pfSense Plus routers and their Tensor V router and VPN concentrators are available as AMIs on Marketplace. So customers can go and download those and deploy them to EC2. So they have full control of how they're architected inside their VPCs and their AWS accounts. And they also offer tax support as professional services through our marketplace. And lastly, we'll talk a lot about this today, Glenn, but you have some government agencies that use your products, and some of these products are available on the GovCloud as well, our marketplace for GovCloud customers. Another pillar of this is what we call our foundational technical review. So this is a program we have for a lot of different software vendors that want to go through a rigorous qualification process that we do to review products for security, reliability, and operational excellence. So FTR is what we called it. And I believe, Olabanji, you did the recent FTR for Netgate, in fact?
Yes, I did. I validated the technical review for the solution.
Awesome. Yeah. So there's a lot of questions that we go through and just try to really understand how these products work and how they support these different pillars we have in the review process. And then we have what we call our service ready programs. And so there's the first one here, AWS Graviton Ready. And so Graviton is our processor type for Amazon EC2 that allows products to run very price performant in compute. So Netgate is Graviton supported, meaning you can deploy this to Amazon EC2 Graviton processors for the best price performance that we offer at AWS. And then we also have AWS Private Link Ready. So for customers that really need private connectivity in their VPC across different accounts or across different VPCs, pfSense Plus supports Private Link for private connectivity in those use cases. And so, yeah, these are just some of the programs Netgate's involved in. We'll talk deeper about the products, but I'll go ahead and get back to you, Glenn, and start talking more about Netgate.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so a quick background on Netgate. We're about a 20-year-old company. We're headquartered here in Austin. It's where I am right now for various meetings here, but I'm headquartered. I live in Las Vegas. We're about a 100-person company, and our focus for the last 20 years has been on networking and security. We're going to talk about our new management platform today, multi-instance management, specifically for pfSense. But the foundation of the company is around networking. Because one of the other things we're going to talk about today, which is mesh VPN and ZTNA, is foundational to what our engineers have been looking to bring to market for actually quite some time. We're also a huge contributor to the open source community. pfSense sits on FreeBSD. We've upstreamed a lot of our work into FreeBSD. pfSense CE, our community edition, is entirely open source. It has the majority of features of pfSense Plus, which is the commercial edition of our software. And so we have the 11 million customers that we have out there. A lot of them are pfSense CE, and they're learning this stuff at home. They're using it at home as a firewall, and then bringing that into the enterprise. And these are the types of enterprises they're bringing it into. And again, we just crossed the 11 million download mark between pfSense CE as well as pfSense Plus. But we have 100 or 200 Global 2000 customers utilizing pfSense Plus, both in the cloud as well as on premises. Various government agencies, education, small, medium business, board in the cloud companies, you name it, they're using it in AWS. So we have thousands of customers specifically in AWS, and it's everything from small wineries in Australia all the way to Department of Defense and everything in between. The neat thing is that the same software that is run in AWS by DoD is run in the Navy on ships, on boxes like the 8300, but that same software is run at home. On the 1100, I run it at home on the 2100. And it's the same software package that scales across all of these hardware appliances is in AWS, and we also support on bare metal and VMs for our customers. So we bring quite a few things to market. These are the appliances. Just a really quick discussion of that. So the 1100, 2100 made for like 1 gig and below for home. 4200 and 6100 will support like 10 gig, 5 gig. Again, to the home or business. I know this is a global Twitch stream, but at least in the US, we have pretty strong deployment of 5 gig, 7 gig, 10 gig happening to the communities, especially with the infrastructure projects that are going on. So if you're getting 10 gig to the home, you don't have to pay a fortune for a router, a firewall, and all that capability. And 6100 is like $799, and will support 10 gig at wire speed for a firewall, which is fantastic. And then these are more for branch offices and data centers and everything else. The 8300 we just released supports on Tensor 100 gig routing. Right, so we'll talk about what Tensor is compared to what pfSense Plus, but what we have here is systems that can scale to hundreds and multi-hundred gigabit per second in the core network. On the software side, within AWS, we have pfSense Plus, which we'll talk about, as well as Tensor. So I'm not going to spend too much time on the Tensor product because, again, we're here to talk about multi-instance management as well as pfSense Plus. But I do want to recognize what it is within AWS specifically. It is a terabit router, but our go-to-market is not as a high-speed router, right? Because AWS has Transit Gateway. It works. There's no need to reinvent the wheel within the cloud. Where it's and where we're being sold within AWS is as a VPN concentrator. So if you're looking for a 100 gigabits worth of VPN to aggregate, this is the box that can handle it. It's very inexpensive. We have a bunch of use cases for it inside of AWS, and the cost savings are huge when it's aggregating. It's also not capped, right? So AWS caps individual VPN streams. Here, this is uncapped. So if you put it on a bare metal machine with a couple hundred gig interfaces, you are good to go to the 10,000 plus amount of VPNs to a single box. Online, we have our 8200 doing and bringing up a 1,000 mobile IPsec connections, and that's a pretty low end box. So on Tensor, the 8300 and what you can do with Tensor on AWS bare metal as well as VMs is absolutely insane. If you're looking at M6IN, the network optimized VMs that also scale to 50, 70, 100 gigabits a second, very cost effectively. You put Tensor on that, and you have amazing VPN aggregation within all the regions. It could also be a NAT gateway, right, which is good functionality for cloud as well. All right, so let's talk about pfSense Plus. So pfSense has been around for, again, just about 20 years. It is a firewall, it's a router, and it also has VPN capability. What's the difference? Tensor is just a router as well as VPN, and it does have some packet filtering capabilities, but it is not a firewall in the traditional sense. pfSense's first job is to be a firewall. It also has router capabilities, and then it also can do VPN, but the scale is considerably different, right? So pfSense scales to about 10 plus gigabits a second, whereas Tensor scales to hundreds, if not terabit per second. We have use cases with multi-hundred gig servers on Tensor, but Tensor works on Linux and is in user space on Linux, whereas pfSense is kernel limited. It is FreeBSD limited. So this is work that we're doing for the future, but today, pfSense really sits at the 10 gigabit per second plus level for firewall capability. It can scale a little bit better on the router side, and then is about 10 gigs as well on the VPN, no matter how much offloading you do or anything like that. So its use cases are around data center. Again, all the hardware that you saw, we sell that every day. It goes into traditional data centers. We have a bunch of MSPs, hopefully some of them are on. Some of my buddies at the MSPs are on to talk about or listen and see what we have for multi-instance management. But so in the data center, again, scales to all the hardware, as well as if you buy a TAC subscription for 129, you can put it on your own third-party hardware and scale that out to whatever you want. Also in cloud, the use case for pfSense is different than the use case for pfSense on premises. So what we find our customers doing in AWS is not only using us as a firewall, but also as a VPN concentrator, as well as a NAT gateway, as well as DNS. Right. So basically, it's a single box that can you pay for it once, and it does all of the things. So you don't have to worry about, did I misconfigure my NAT gateway, and am I being hit really hard on costs there? It does it. It can do it at the edge. It can do it within the subnets. Works just fine. And again, pfSense in the home and office are like those 1100s, 1200s that people are using at home, just as a firewall in the house. So if you're listening to this Twitch stream and you don't have a firewall at home, we highly recommend one because you have so many devices now, right? It's not like you just have back in, I'm going to date myself, not back in the old AOL days where you just basically have one machine in the house that connects to the internet, right? Now you have, like, I think at last count, my house, by the way, I live alone, so this is even really sad. I have over 100 devices, like, Nest thermostats and cameras and all the devices. Question, I saw a 2408 snapshot today. So the multi-instance management that we're going to talk about will be in 2408. We're actually getting ready to begin the release process for that. So everything you see today will be in 2408. Okay, so pfSense Plus and AWS, again, I said we have about 3,600 as of September 4th. We have about 3,600 customers. We do about 3.3 million hours a month of usage within AWS. And our customer base is fairly evenly split. And these are, again, the use cases, right? So not only is a firewall, but we can run Snort and Suricata. So you can do IPS, IDS. We use it as a NAT gateway, as well as all the VPNs. It can aggregate within the system, and then DNS is also available. Cool. So I'm going to stop presenting. We'll see how the technology works. I'm going to stop presenting my screen. We'll have Tim start presenting his screen and unmute, and then we're going to go back and forth and walk you through what multi-instance management is going to look like. But as Tim is bringing up his screen, and to kill some time, we're going to talk about how we're going to market with multi-instance management. So this is the #1 feature request we've had in the couple of years that I've been at Netgate, which is we have MSPs and we have customers with hundreds, if not thousands, of firewalls under management. And they're tired of logging into each one of them individually. They want to be able to push remote updates. They want to be able to do all the things. So what's coming out in 2408 is an early look. I've just been in meetings all day with the lead engineer on it. We're about 70% done with the APIs, and you heard that right, APIs. In the build that we're going to ship for the early look, and then the other 30% is going to go into the GA code when we actually ship for revenue. Oluwanji, are you bringing Tim's screen up?
Yes, 1 second. And just before that, hey, for everyone that's just joining, welcome to the Howdy Partner episode for this week. For those of you that are just that are new to this show, Howdy Partner is a weekly Twitch series that highlights AWS partners that have built innovative solutions and have been validated by AWS Solutions Architect. And today we have Netgate with us and team. Go ahead.
Great. So here's for all the folks that are on that wanted to see multi-instance management. I want to be clear as to how we're bringing it to market, and then we'll run through a demo of what we're doing and everything else, and then we can take questions here too, right? Okay, cool. All right. So, like I was saying, in 2408, what we're going to be releasing is multi-instance management actually in pfSense Plus. So, meaning that the piece of software that's delivered as 2408 has a MiM controller, multi-instance management controller in it, and it can manage 3 systems. That's what you're seeing here. Do you notice that Tim has in his house two 2100s and a 6100? One of the 2100s, my guess is the one on the left, is not only acting as a firewall, but it is also acting as the MiM controller to manage the 6100 as well as the 2100. This is the way that we will be releasing MiM as an early look. And this is also how we're going to be releasing multi-instance management free of charge for home use, and as well as demo use or just practice, right? So how we release this is basically how we're going to release it for free going forward, and it will be hard limited at managing 3 devices. And this is what we're going to take you through what's coming in 2408 as well as what's coming in general. Now, when we release for revenue, the controller will be separated, meaning, again, you'll have what you see here. This is the perpetuity, but if you want to manage more than 3 systems, you're going to, I'll answer that in a second. When we release for revenue, you're going to have a controller that's separate, and version 1 of that controller is going to run in the cloud. So as our partners know, we support AWS, we support Azure. So basically, it'll be an AWS marketplace. It'll be a controller, and it will be in the cloud, and it will manage all of the pfSense devices. If you're an MSP, it'll manage all of your customers' devices. And special partner pricing, because we can do private offers through AWS. So if you're an MSP and you have 1,000 customers that you want to manage, we'll give you a license to manage 1,000, and it'll be procured through AWS. And we'll give you, if you're an AWS reseller partner, then we can do CPPO. If you're just an MSP partner that wants to purchase this for yourself, then we can still do a private offer. But we have to have list pricing and pay-go pricing just to list in AWS. Okay, so something I do want to get clear, because I put this in the newsletter and I had questions. There was some ambiguity. This is not SaaS, right? So when we launch this version 1 as a controller in AWS, it is run in your tenancy, right? So you're running it in your tenancy in AWS, and then you're managing all of your customers. So it can be confusing, and I want to repeat it for the folks that are coming on. What you're seeing here is what we're releasing for 2408 and to perpetuity controller inside of basically a single firewall like the 2100. So it does both tasks potentially. But when we're shipping for revenue, it'll be in cloud, and then version 2 will be on premises, right? So version 1 of multi-instance management controller will be cloud only. And then version 2 will be cloud as well as an on-prem solution for you to run on your servers. Later on this Twitch stream, we're going to be talking about ZTNA and Mesh VPN. The neat thing here is the technology that we're using to manage all of these devices is the Mesh VPN technology that we'll be bringing to market later. So to make all these things see each other, it's actually a Mesh VPN, and they're connected to each other through that. It is not chatty, so you're not going to be hit with egress fees. It's just basically bringing up a VPN, and then it's just a heartbeat unless there's an update that needs to happen between the devices, which again, that's mostly ingress traffic, not egress traffic in the cloud. So that was just a quick overview of the go-to-market and what we're planning on doing. Expect a release of this in October. What you're seeing will be out in October. And then in November, version 1 will ship for revenue in AWS. Okay, so Tim, I think you can make your screen a little bit bigger. Or not, I guess everyone can see it well enough. Okay,
Yeah.
So in here, what you're seeing is the controller interface on the 2100 that is running all of this. And it sees Tim's other 2100 that's in his house, as well as the 6100. And just a lay of the land for this screen, everything here is done via an API. So as people that have been using pfSense know forever, pfSense doesn't have an API. But yeah, this is why this is taking so long to come out. Every functionality, every piece of functionality that you know and love in the GUI, Tim, if you can just go to the other tab to show the 6100 GUI. So everything you know and love from this interface is not API based, right? This has been around forever, and you just do a drop down and you do the thing, you configure it, and it's local to the machine, and it just works, right? Whereas if you go back to the MiM tab that you had open, everything done through here is done via an API. So we have written an API for pfSense. And we're about, again, 70% of the way done. And anything that isn't complete during the early look will just have a message that says not available yet. But the main functionality that MSPs and enterprises care about will be available in the early look. So everything here is done via an API. And and I will show this as part of the demo, when you configuration, it is done real time, and you can have almost both tabs open at the same time, and it will show you in the local tab as well as through MiM. So everything is run so that you can't overwrite the configuration if two people are working on it in real time. The main functionality of what we want to bring to market initially for MSPs and enterprise is the ability to do remote upgrades, do boot environments, which we'll show you today, and then tagging. Those were the three major requests from MSPs. So the first two are obvious, and I can talk through some of that. But tagging is if you were an MSP with 1,000 customers, and let's say a customer name is ABC, you don't want to see a screen of 1,000. You can nest these too, that's fine, but you still don't want to see all of it. So you'd go up to the top right-hand corner there, the tags, you'd type ABC, and only a company ABC's pfSense devices will come up, which is kind of cool. Okay, so let's show you an example of what multi-instance management can do. So on that 2100 where the arrow is now, Tim, you can just click the CLI. So that's it. There we go. We're done. But those of you that know pfSense, this should be fairly impressive, right? That's not the 2100 that's sitting there managing all this. This is a command line interface to a 2100 across a mesh VPN tunnel. And if he hits 8 and hits enter, you're in the CLI of a firewall that you're nowhere near. Right. So if you're an MSP managing a bunch of firewalls and you just want a quick CLI interface, you can go on MiM, bring it up, search for it, hit that, and you are in the command line of a firewall that could be halfway across the country. If you wanted to configure that firewall not via CLI, you can just get out and let's hit the other button next to it. Yeah, you could just go there. Actually, exit out of the 2100. Let's do that in the 6100 because I know you have that tab open for the firewall rules. Yeah. So Tim, I don't know if you're muted. You can kind of take people through what you're seing here
Yeah,
and the ARP cache and everything else. Yep.
absolutely. So basically, the aim is to have eventually parity between all the screens uh, on the instance that we just looked at a couple of minutes ago and here. So this is definitely a work in progress, but basically, for example, you have the system drop down here uh, where you can go in and see all kinds of details, admin access, there's web configuration, secure shell, login, all kinds of stuff that you can set and deal with here. Multi-instance management. This is where you can go see where what is set up here with respect to actually enabling MIM on instances.
You can scroll down or the all that's okay.
Yeah,
The key exchange. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's not populated right now, but
Yeah.
it will
Okay.
be. Yeah. So firewall NAT stuff is available. All of this is some of it's available in the API. Some is still being developed, but there's all of this is available under admin access. So that's all.
Cool.
Here, let me go back up a little bit. So you can see interfaces. And see.
So that's part of the screen of green, right? So
Yeah.
if these interfaces were plugged in to things, if it got unplugged or if there was an issue, you'd see the red, you get the alert. All the alerting will be centralized to MIM. So you have a single, basically, pane of glass for all the logs, all the management, everything that you would expect the thing to do,
Yep.
right? And the cool thing about showing the 6100 is it has a ton of interfaces.
Yeah, you have edit capability here. Firewall. Take a look at the firewall. This is what you were talking about just a couple of minutes ago. Here you're going to see rules that are configured in the actual firewall of the 6100 that we were just looking at a minute ago. You can, if you check over here, copy rules. You can edit rules, delete rules, disable
You can
them.
just drag one on top of the other.
Yeah, you can add a separator between them, and you can add new rules below this position if you want to. And like you were just saying, if you wanted to change positions here, you can take this and just drop it down, and dynamically it changes position.
And then go over to the other tab and show them via the GUI.
Yeah, you can go over
So
here.
if you just
and so we moved the V6 down, so we'll just update this. Oh goodness, timed out on us. There you go. And there you see it's actually moved. So yeah, you can see it in pretty much real time. So this is very handy. So in addition to this, there's all the different sections that you might have rules in that you can move between here. So that's pretty nice. Services, you can do auto config backup here if you want to. Enable these things. Fill this up. You can do a backup now. So all of this is still kind of.
Can you go to the boot environments?
I'm sorry?
Can you go to the boot environments?
Absolutely.
So one of the main requests for MSPs is being able to reliably update all of their customers in the field without a truck roll, right? So without actually going to the customer site.
Yep.
That's the number one time saver of having, outside of the single screen of green, right? Is can we push an update to a firewall, have it reboot, and come back alive, and then update us when that's done. So within this release, that functionality we want our MSP partners to be able to play with. So
Yeah.
a feature that came out in the previous release of pfSense is boot environments. And that was in our newsletters and everything else, and you guys can look it up. But basically, if you're running ZFS, you can take a point-in-time snapshot of what's running, and then you can update that snapshot with the new software. Then you could force a reboot of the firewall, and that updated snapshot will be single boot only. And the reason why it's single boot is, for some reason, if it doesn't come back online, it will revert back to the previous configuration and then go back on something that's known good. If it does come back online, it removes the single boot flag. So if you're sitting here in front of multi-instance management, you can push push a snapshot, force a snapshot, update the snapshot with new version of pfSense, force a reboot or schedule a reboot. It comes back online, and you didn't have to go out to the customer site to update the software. That was number one request, right, for multi-instance management, outside of just basically give me a configuration and single pane of glass to manage all of my customers. And boot environments was the first key step, and that's available now. And then being able to update via multi-instance management was the second step of that. There's a question up there. How does the API connect to remote firewalls? Our assumption is that all the firewalls are going to be remote, right? Because if you're running the controller in AWS, minus the 2 pfSenses we hope you're running in AWS, everything else is going to be remote. And our mesh VPN technology is not WireGuard. We're not ready to quite announce the technology that's underlying. The key is that it's very lightweight, and it is heavily and well-known encryption, but it's not specifically WireGuard, but it's close to it. So everything here, even though it's all in Tim's house, it's still connected via a mesh VPN that if all of these were global, it would look the same. One of the key things that I needed out of this interface that engineering has succeeded in is responsiveness of the interface. So we test this not only within a single house, but we have testing across distance. And these APIs in this interface is super, super responsive, and scales with no matter how many firewalls you have under management, you're still going to get the same kind of responsiveness from the interface, which I think is really lacking with a lot of our competition. So yeah, that's boot environments. And then we'll be able to have, before it ships with 2408, we're putting the code in. The code's done. It's being put in right now for actually remote push of an update. And that's the whole point of MiM, right, is to be able to do that. Tim, anything else you particularly want to show? Or are there any other questions from the folks that are listening, anything they particularly want to see?
Yeah, there are a few questions on the comments. I will pin them as they coming.
Okay, so
yeah.
the one that's on now, I answered. It's
Okay.
it is a proprietary VPN, mesh VPN technology, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay. All right. Here is another one. 1 second. Yeah. Are there plans to change the local GUI to API as well?
Nope.
Okay. And this is a 2-part question. 1 moment. So I guess question 1, will there be any roadmap features to add supported packages like Suricata? I think you mentioned Suricata.
Oh yeah, all the
seconds ago.
packages. So the expectation is once we go live with multi-instance management, all of the things that you can do in the GUI will be available. Yeah, there you go. Will be available for you in multi-instance management, right? That's the requirement.
Okay. And the second part is we have a network detection solution that allows
Yeah.
network detection to trigger API calls that create modified firewall rules. will the API be open to allow third-party integrations like this?
So that is being heavily debated. We want to be done with the API first and get multi-instance management out. With regards to opening the API, I can't answer that in either direction yet.
Okay.
But if we have customers that have specific use cases that are large enough customers to do something like this, we might be able to open up that portion of the API. I don't believe that our plan is to entirely open up the kimono. We want to have some runtime on the software and on the API, but I'm sure over time, that's just the way APIs go. But I'm glad to see people are excited for pfSense having API. I'm really excited about that too.
Yeah, it's a lot of engagement going on in the comments. I don't know if y'all can see it,
I
but
can't see it. No, I can't see it.
okay, it's like 5 questions we have now. Just
Okay,
bear with
let's
me while
go.
I pin them. All right. So will Mesh VPN adapt to multi-WAN environments from the start?
Yeah. I have a whole slide deck on that I'll I think answers all of those questions that is coming after this demo. Yep.
So just in case, I'm going to be sharing some links in the chat. So for those of you that want to know more about what we're discussing today, you can go to that link and get more information, as well as request a demo. If I'm going to be sharing the screen. So I think the next question is also regarding the Mesh VPN. Could we eventually also use it to tunnel networks between firewalls? I think that's a great question.
You'll see the use case for Mesh VPN. It is a zero trust, right? So everything is a tunnel, basically. It's the network pillar of zero trust. You are, inherently. So first of all, if you do zero trust right, you don't need a firewall. Now, cyber insurance companies will always require you to have a firewall. NIST requirements are going to say, yeah, you should probably have a firewall. And especially during the transition to zero trust, you definitely need firewalls. But when it's done right, if everything is a point-to-point VPN, then the firewall doesn't see anything. And I'll show you that within this presentation. But the cool thing is, as we're slowly bringing this to market, we're using this Mesh VPN technology here as part of multi-instance management to flush it out. But it's in the background. But yeah, effectively between all these devices is a bunch of point-to-point VPNs.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Glenn. The next question is, this person is asking, does the open source support MikroTik router?
I have to look that up. I think I don't think the processor is right there. I don't think it does, but I'd have to look it up.
Okay. CB Trucks asked, will we be able to add MiM to devices running CE?
Day one, no. So whereas pfSense Plus is getting the API, we have not done the work to put that API into CE. Now, it doesn't mean that it won't happen, but day one, this is a pfSense Plus feature only. We do want to continue evolving CE, and this is one of the things that's on the table, is to be able to manage CE devices through multi-instance management. But that means that we need to do the same work that we've done to Plus to CE, and basically give it an API. And then since it's open source, we would have to open the API to everybody as well. So day one, this is again intended for MSPs. It's intended for enterprise, and they tend to be running Plus. I know I have a bunch of MSP partners that are like half Plus, half CE, but my hope is that they convert that half of CE over to Plus, and that there's enough value here to make that happen. But yeah, day one, it will not go on CE. It is hotly debated inside. And we're going to let the market speak for itself. So if we have enough MSP partners that say, let us manage using multi-instance management on CE, just charge me more to manage those devices, then it's probably the direction we'd be forced to go by the market.
Okay. We have 2 more questions in the chat.
Yep.
this one says from TechManco, will the on-prem solution be available as a download for installation on Linux server? And can it be self-hosted, or will it be available as a hosted service at AWS?
Right. So the on-premises solution will basically be installed like you would basically pfSense or anything else on a server, right? So it's basically a controller. It's still going to be BSD based. It's going to be a complete package that you'd put in a VM and run, much like it is on AWS. So again, version 1 is going to be an AMI on an AWS VM in your tenancy. So it is not a hosted solution by Netgate. If you're an MSP, it can be a hosted solution by you to your customers. That's fine, but it's running in your tenancy. Version 2 of multi-instance management will support both cloud as well as on-premises, and it will have various packages available to run on probably Intel and ARM, but that's not done. We want to get version 1 out the door first. Hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, I think Learn with Joseph also has a question. Who wants me to ask if what's the difference between OpenVPN and your open source product?
OpenVPN is a VPN that we use within pfSense, so we can terminate OpenVPN connections. But this is the whole firewall, and VPN and router and all the things. So OpenVPN is one component of what we offer our customers right there. Yeah, so we can terminate OpenVPN connections, but that's just a point-to-point VPN.
Okay.
Cool.
Let's take 2 more questions and we can move
Sure.
forward. Because
I love the interactions. It's great.
Yeah, and someone said, Mitch Moore says, similar to Panorama, will we see Suricata logs show up in the controller?
All the logs. We are upstreaming all the logs from all of the firewalls to the controller. So all the logging that you have on every individual firewall will be upstream to the multi-instance management controller. Yeah, Snort, Suricata, all the things, PF blocker. And yeah, we're trying to make this a substantially less expensive version of Panorama. Yeah, that'd be great.
And last question that I have here, this person is asking about licenses, if it's going to be running for free or, yeah.
Yeah, so TAC Lite is a license, and that's what gets you pfSense Plus. Multi-instance management will be free for 3 devices. So what you're seeing here in 2408 and going forward, you can manage 3 devices free of charge. So if you have a home lab set up and you have 3 pfSense Plus devices, you're good to go. You don't have to pay us anything outside of the fact that you're paying us for pfSense Plus.
Yeah.
However, for the controller itself, version 1 within AWS, version 2 on premises, there will be a per seat charge to manage. It's not going to be a lot, especially relative to Panorama or Fortinet's offering or Sophos or any of those guys. But there is a per managed device charge for multi-instance management, yes. Not really ready to release the pricing yet, but it seems like we're set on a number and it's not a lot. It's a cup of coffee.
Hey, Glenn, I have
not a venti coffee, not a venti coffee, by the way. That is just it's a small coffee.
Hey, Glenn,
not at an airport for sure. Definitely not an airport coffee. Sorry, trying to make it somewhat funny.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
So around that numbering you were just talking about, let's say a larger customer has a larger amount of devices they want to manage with this. What's sort of the scaling you're seeing with this? How many devices could you manage with the multi-instance management?
Okay, so we have a number that we want to hit. We have one MSP out there with 19,000 firewalls under management. We need to support them.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
There's an answer, right? Work from the customer backwards.
Yeah. That's what I came back with. We have an MSP with 19,000, and half of them are plus, and the other half are CE. And I want to convert that half from CE to plus, and I want them all managed. So that's what went into engineering.
Awesome. And as you were giving this
for
demo,
the web UI. Sorry.
The UI, obviously, so you built a lot of functionality in the UI here to really get granular, assuming that the command line interface is what a lot of customers use, but this gives a different level of accessibility to these devices across, up to 19,000 of them. How are you thinking about configuration management, or like standardizing or templatizing configs across devices?
That has also been a request. So our goal is in V1 to have templates, right?
Okay.
And that was the other request from MSPs, is to be able to push a basic configuration. So basically, instead of having a firewall shipped from Netgate to the MSP, and the MSP configures it and ships it to the customer, to be able to just ship straight to the customer that comes online, and they'll be able to push a config. So we do want to be able to do some kind of templates and have those easily pushed to firewalls. There's a lot of use cases for that, and that is a high priority feature. So yeah.
Very cool.
The cool thing is I've been around this whole time running marketing when we've been scoping this. And actually next week I'll be at the MSP Expo. So the folks that are in Atlanta, I'll be there Tuesday and Wednesday when the Expo hall's open. And I've been listening to every MSP that talks to me. We've been sending out newsletters and specifically requesting information from MSPs as to what feature function they want, as well as pricing they want for this. And we've listened to them. And one, we're under the pricing that people have told me they wanted, which is good. And then all the features that they've all agreed on that are needed at the larger scale are in version 1, or are targeted for version 1.
Awesome. And it looks like we have one
dark
really
mode. I have no
question.
idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not sure.
Yeah. I haven't tried. Tim, is there a dark mode on this? Have you seen one? I thought I saw one, but I could be wrong.
I'm not sure at this point.
Yeah. I'll ask
I think I
engineering.
saw plans for it, but I'm not
Okay,
sure
if there's
I'm
plans
not
for
sure if
yeah,
it's
so
in
there's
here.
plans for a dark mode.
Yeah.
I know there's a dark mode for the GUI, but yeah. Are you saying you don't like my color combination? I'm insulted. Okay, awesome. That is an early look at our GUI. Our multi-instance management GUI specifically. And let me get back to my screen share. Okay, so Olabanji, you should be able to see my screen now.
Give me 1 second.
So those of you that want more information, you probably know how to reach out to us. If you want your own private demo of this, and if you're an MSP, if you're a large enterprise customer listening to this on the replay, so feel free to reach out. And the cool thing is, in a month, you're going to have this, right? It'll be in 2408. You'll be able to play with it within a lab environment. And then a month after that, you'll be able to get it in AWS. That's our goal here. Okie dokie. Now the exciting stuff. So zero trust. Everybody has a zero trust solution. Everybody's zero trust solution is different. As was popular in last night's debate, there's 100 ways to skin a cat. No, I got nothing. Come on. That whole debate was about eating cats. So anyway, ZTNA is a philosophy. It's not a product, right? So there's a lot of different components. AWS's component of ZTNA is in the identity space initially, right? We're not competing there. We're a networking company. So we want the network pillar of zero trust. The way that we're modeling our go-to-market is around those things on the left. So what NIST is saying, the NSA, US Cybersecurity Infrastructure, FBI, I've read all these docs, not proud of that. And we want to make sure that we comply with the government standards because the enterprise standards tend to be a subset of the government requirements. I have shown this presentation to government agencies who do backflips. So they do backflips when I go through this slide set, going like, this is what we need, because the way that we're going to market with this is not a SaaS solution. They own all of it. And so we can go through what we're going to be bringing to market over the course of the next 6, 9, 12 months. Our target is the first half of next year to have an early look and a GA of this. Oluwanji, do you have any other questions before I kick off on ZTNA?
Yes, I do.
for
I
it.
don't. I want us to really capture
You're good.
the moment. So yeah, I have a few more. I'm gonna pin it on the screen right now. So addition, if I'm correct, I apologize if I mispronounced that. Can we expect that the per seat pricing will be based on current online instances and not the amount of overall added instances to MiM?
Okay, it's like if you're managing 500 firewalls, it's the 500 firewalls that are under management. So you need to be licensed for the 500. Again, if you're an MSP, I got you covered, right? Pricing wise. So it's pretty good. But it is devices under management. And again, I've talked to plenty of MSPs and they all quoted almost double the price on an annual basis than we're actually going to go to market with. So we're going to do great.
Okay. The next question here is, will there be the effort to support compliances?
I'd want to take that offline. You can. Are you guys cool with me giving an email address?
I posted earlier how they can reach out to you. I think.
Okay, great. So you guys have my ability to reach out to me. So our compliances vary based on requirement, right? Depending on where you're hosted and everything. We tend to not have those requirements because again, all of this MIM is hosted in your tenancy, right? And if you use like GovCloud, if you need FedRAMP and all that is in AWS's data center. So all we're doing is providing software. We don't have access to the database. We don't have access to any of the customer information. We don't have access to any of the logs. We don't have any of that. So we tend to punt all of those compliance requirements to, and that's again why we're not SaaS, right? So we don't have to do FedRAMP SaaS. We don't have to do any of this because you're hosting it, and we don't see anything. One of the reasons why we're big in the DoD space is because we send no telemetry home. We don't have to. We have the option of doing it, but we generally send no telemetry home, and our customers know that. So if you have a direct question regarding this stuff with regards to compliance, reach out to me. I can answer the question more specifically, but as a general rule, we don't have to do any of that because it's IaaS, not SaaS.
And yeah, I guess this last one is just a recommendation. It says before someone patents this. Yeah, that's the last question I have in the queue, so we can go ahead after this.
Okay, cool. I don't understand this question though.
That's okay. I'll just take it down.
Okay. Can you create a gateway that runs everything through an AI first? Are you talking about the question I'd have there is, are you talking about logging? Because like logging, there are companies that will take all the logs and run it through AI to make sure that if you're being attacked, for example, MSPs do this. Like if one customer is being attacked a certain way, they'll push a firewall rule to others. And this will be a central source of that logging. I actually do want to get eventually support for AWS Security Lake, which would enable functionality like that as well. I'm sure MSPs have that kind of access, but again, reach out to me. We can have a conversation because I have follow-up questions. Okay. let's talk zero trust and what we're doing. See if this works. Hey, yeah, the animation works great. Okay, so let's just talk VPNs first. So what's a VPN do? It's a point-to-point connection from, let's say, my mobile client into a network, right? So I have my iPhone and I have a VPN connection to a router, right? Like OpenVPN or something like that. In this case, it's Tensor. And even though all I care about is accessing the server on the right, I can scan this network and notice that there's 3 other servers, and I can talk to them too. This is how VPNs work. Nothing wrong with that. It's very secure. I had to authenticate. However, I have access to the entire subnet that this router is front-ending, or VPN concentrator is front-ending. So I can see everything. Doesn't mean I can get into everything, but I can at least see everything, and I can test it for weaknesses. But this is how VPNs work today. Again, nothing wrong with that. So the way that we're going to roll out ZTNA, I'm sure this will replay several times. The way that we're going to roll out our Mesh VPN and ZTNA is, you notice that there's a controller there. The controller that you saw for MiM also is a controller for Mesh VPN, but there'll be 2 separate products, but they can be congealed into one when all of this comes together. So that client had to authenticate with the controller. It needed to authenticate there, and it created a point-to-point tunnel through the security VPC, which means that the firewalls there didn't do anything. They weren't necessary because it was purely encrypted traffic. And it terminated at the edge of a subnet in this case. So it terminates at the edge of the subnet, and it hands off the traffic to the application that's within the VPC. So here's the thing. The analogy that I best use here is all we did with this point-to-point tunnel, right? All I gave the client through that mesh controller is my home address, right? Just because you know my home address doesn't mean you can come into my house. You still need to re-authenticate at the application layer, right? So there's several boundaries here. There's a network boundary, which is that VPN, and you authenticated, so you got to the edge there, all the way through the cloud, but now you're just knocking on the door of that application, and if this client doesn't have the rights to use that application, nothing's going to happen because authenticated beyond that. They can't go up here and go, hey, what's this application over here? And what's this management look like? And what else is in this cloud? None of that can happen because all they have is a point-to-point tunnel between that client and that application. So all they're going to see is a screen come up and say, congratulations, you're here. But now you need a login for the application itself, right? And that's the application boundary. And that is where AWS's ZTNA authentication comes in, right? To make your life easier there. So all we're giving you is an address and a point-to-point tunnel and a secure way to get from point A to point B. So these are all overlay networks. And all these clients see is the thing that they're allowed to see. They have no route to anything else. Are there any questions that have come up on that? Yes, okay, yeah, shoot. Yes, so yeah, it'll work with Starlink, it works with everything. As long as you're running a client through any kind of network, we're going to be releasing iOS clients, Windows clients, Mac clients, Linux clients, Windows clients. And if you are running that software, you can create a network, and obviously you have authentication. So 4G, 5G, as long as you have a way to the interwebs or the private, obviously, network, you're good. If it's a private network too, right? As long as this cloud has access to that private network, you're also good to go. Anything else? No? Okay, perfect. Okay, here's where it gets exciting. This is not just the client. The same thing needs to happen between VPCs, right? So you have a transit gateway there, but you don't need to have one, right? Because pfSense and Tensor are also routers, but we'll use the transit gateway. But this application, let's say that this is an application for a database. It's still internal to your network, potentially, or it could be external to your network, don't care. But this application needed to get data from this database. And keep in mind, this is a one point in time example. Obviously, you could put firewall rules or route rules in the transit gateway that says only this IP address on this port can talk to this, but you're not going to do that for literally everything, right? And that's the whole point of zero trust, is it needs to be encrypted, and it needs to be authenticated, and it needs to be re-authenticated and re-authenticated and re-authenticated, right? So every time this application wants to extract data from this database up here, it needs to authenticate with the controller. And the controller says, yeah, this application has the right to talk to this other application. We're going to build a point-to-point tunnel, and they can exchange information between each other. Again, if you're a user that happens to be sitting on this application server and you're trying to do literally anything else other than do an API call from the database to get data and then go back to this application, you can't do it because you have no default route out. So just because you got here somehow, you still have nothing you can do other than being stuck within this VPC or stuck within this subnet. So even application traffic, again, that's the whole point of zero trust, there is zero trust. Now, the last piece is what's interesting, and it is a mixture of really good network design as well as authentication, right? But this is where the backflips come in. Oops. Data exfil. Let's say that client's infected with malware. That client, from the first example, is obviously authenticated, right? So they can make that first tunnel to that subnet, but and you know, that client, let's say, has is infected with something and malware, it will infect that subnet. There's nothing we can do about it because that client is authenticated to talk to that application. It hits the server, the malware ransomware hits, and hopefully you're using Amazon S3 and you have immutable storage, and you can recover this within 5 minutes. There's my pitch for Amazon. I love immutable storage, right? You don't have to worry about being encrypted. You can just go back to the point in time before that encryption happened. But with immutable storage, that takes that problem out of your head. But the other problem is, what about data exfiltration, right? What if there was data here before they encrypted it all? They sent it out to some rogue nation, right? Because it's always state actors that are doing this stuff. We're not going to name names because I came from one of those countries. So if that's the case, then something to consider is, how do we make sure the data doesn't get out? Well, don't give that application, don't give that VPC any default route out. It still would need to authenticate to get out, right? So if you are not an application that knows that it's in a mesh environment, it doesn't have a username and password to communicate to the mesh controller, it doesn't know what it's doing, it's just trying to force a route out, because the assumption is in the cloud center, every machine has a way to get out to the internet. And here, it's blocked off. pfSense is a firewall, right? It is the thing that would instantiate that VPN. And it's not going to do that because you have no rights to authenticate with a mesh controller and no way to create a VPN back out. Hopefully that makes sense. Because this client brought up the VPN to begin with, it infected, and usually ransomware waits. And by the time that ransomware has infected and takes control, it's going to try to extract itself, and it will not be able to. Now, This does not protect against an authenticated user, right? If someone knows how to backdoor into here and they have the rights to do this and they have a right to make a tunnel, sure. So if you have an upset employee or whatever, right? Then that data is going to make its way out the door. In this case, it is simply ransomware that you got infected and it has no way of exiting the building. And that's what causes governments to do backflips on this. Is that it's a very elegant way to ensure that data stays put. Because again, the ransomware doesn't know how to authenticate with a mesh controller and create a tunnel and exit. Any questions on this stuff? And I know we have 40 minutes left. I only have 10 minutes left, actually. But yeah, this is the last slide. Any questions on this stuff? And the cool thing is, this is what this mesh technology is what we've put into multi-instance management. So it's being very well tested. And then when we go to market with the ZTNA solution, it will have been gone. Yeah, you can configure whitelist only, basically. And that's what the mesh controller is for, right? So that's what the whole controller is for, is it's a single place in your entire network that you say these applications and these users are allowed to see who, what, and what else. That takes a lot of configuration, but any ZTNA solution is going to take a whole lot of configuration. There's nothing you can do about that.
And there is another question in the chat.
Yeah. Again, many ways to skin a cat. So Cloudflare, Cato, Zscaler, Scale, all these guys have Mesh VPN and ZTNA solutions, and they're all covering various sections, right? Those are the 5 pillars of ZTNA. Like our solution, even though it's a ZTNA solution, it's a Mesh VPN, does not compete in any way, shape, or form with what AWS has brought to market, for example. We will compete with the Catos and the Zscalers and the Cloudflares in the go-to-market. For example, Zscaler specifically is a SaaS solution. And so you're trusting somebody else's SaaS for authentication. If they go down, you're not making any VPNs. What's up will continue to run, but since you can't authenticate, then, and also if you're talking about a hosted solution for security, that's tough, right? Whereas the larger government agencies and the Defense Department and larger enterprises, they might want to host this themselves and not depend on a third party. So yeah, it's a lot of ZTNA solutions out there. Will be yet another one. But what we're going to do is what Netgate does right, which is bring forth an enterprise solution, and we're going to be priced accordingly. With the prices that you guys are kind of used to in the market that we're in. So.
Yeah, we have 2 more questions
Yep.
in the chat. So take.
Yes, the security algorithms will be very well vetted. It is going to be a technology similar to WireGuard on the point-to-points. And when we release this sometime, our CTO will probably do a blog post on exactly what the encryption will look like. And I think that you guys will be quite impressed because we made something very, very efficient with very low overhead. I know most of my use cases of my customers, and the key is fast and low overhead and inexpensive to implement.
Oh, yeah. And lastly, we have someone asking a question about the latency with ZTNA.
Again, the encryption is the encryption, but it should not be very impactful because everything we've done is very lightweight. It is offloaded to the encryption engines within the servers. And if you know DCO, that's there.
Hey, Glenn. Around your product and kind of how your customers, congregate and get support and discuss, like, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about the communities that your customers go to get support, learn from each other, share with the other communities different lessons.
Yeah, we're definitely big on the Reddits, as well as we have our own forums. Even though I get downvoted to hell all the time on Reddit for answering truthfully. Those of you that have on there that know me know I thrive on downvotes. That's my motto. So pfSense has a huge community, and it's necessary. Thank you. So we have a huge community, and all of our folks are on it, which means that our CTO is on there. I'm on there. A lot of our engineers are responsive, both in the Reddit side as well as in the forums of Netgate. So we take our community very seriously, and all of our go-to-market for both multi-instance management as well as this Mesh VPN product are priced according to what our community is used to, which is get very good product in at a price point that's not going to be painful. And we've taken that seriously, and that's what we're going to be releasing. So yeah. And honestly, I do want to push a lot of this towards the community, right? And then the community edition, specifically MiM. It just takes time. We want to get the commercial product out. We want to make sure, and feed the families, and then get it out to the free version if as quickly as humanly possible. Multi-iron QoS, packet loss mitigation, and resilience. Okay, so resilience is clutch, right? Because if you're talking about point-to-point VPNs, and we will be releasing how our encryption algorithm takes care of all of these things. But yes, it is super important to us. And we want to be able to support all types of interfaces, we'll say. So we do have customers that are on 4G and 5G connections, and Starlink. We have actually quite a lot of customers now on Starlink. So we want to make sure that, it's networking at some point, right? So if we don't support that, then we'll lose a lot of the customer base, because globally there's high latency environments. So we want to make sure that our point-to-point VPNs support what our customers are using.
That was the last question in the queue.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I'm stoked for this. Thank you guys for setting this up. I'm stoked to have so many announcements and everything that's coming.
Yeah, somebody chipped in another question asking about pfSense Plus discount.
Reach out to me. Thanks for attending this.
Let me put the link once more.
Alt 229. I'll remember that. So if I get a direct email from Alt 229, I got you.
Okay. I will. Oh, it's very, very. It's a lot of people appreciating Glenn here. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, Netgate.
Thanks, y'all.
And it's been.
This is my first Twitch stream, so I feel young now.
Yeah. Someone said you're the man. Whoa, let me put the banner up to Netgate's website. And
thank you, Tim. Thanks for getting that set up. Thanks, TJ, for being quiet this whole time.
That was awesome. Thanks for the deep dive. Really appreciate the demo. I'm really excited for what you guys have coming.
Yeah,
I think the deep dive was
all of this, and all of this will be in the AWS marketplace. Let's go.
Yeah, and for people that joined late, you can also rewatch this on YouTube. It's going to be posted on YouTube in a few days. You can catch all of what was discussed in this stream on YouTube and many other episodes. I'm trying to put up the banner.
AWS is probably going to edit out my cat eating jokes. I mean, way too much of any presidential debate had cat eating in it, right? Like, I don't think that's ever happened before.
All right. So, yeah, here's the banner. Yeah. So I guess that would bring us to the end of this live stream. Thank you guys from Netgate for joining. Glenn,
Thank you.
Timothy, and TJ. Bennett, thanks for co-hosting the show with me. It's been a very, very engaging episode. And yeah, until next time, thank you so much guys for joining, and we will catch you later.
Thank you all.
Awesome.